Hello, greetings everyone watching on United States of Africa. Those who are watching on Lincoln Live. Also those who are watching on Twitter, United States of Africa YouTube channel, and also Global Pan-Africanism Network YouTube channel. I'm really surprised that 19 African leaders rushed to France to beg for foreign aid, so that because they believe, somehow they have come to believe that Europe or the European Union, France, is what is going to save Africa from the economic crisis post-pandemic. This is really disgusting, and it shows the crop of leaders that we have in Africa. Many disguise themselves with very sweet talk, but when it comes to action, they fail the test of Pan-Africanism. I didn't expect to see Rwandan president rushing to beg for foreign aid, among other leaders that we know usually are very good at that. We expect him to be a very good example. President Paul Kagame of Rwanda has really demonstrated that he was a Pan-Africanist. But I'm seeing that he's jumping into the bandwagon that is asking for foreign aid in France. How can almost the entire continent be invited by France, which is a very small country in Europe? And somehow they believe that Africa, with all its wealth and countless resources, is going to be bailed out by Europe or by France, a country that has demonstrated how aggressive it has been in exploiting Africa and its natural resources. France has been, for many years, been levying colonial taxes on Francophone countries, and they have never even refunded all these colonial taxes they've been stealing from the Africans. And for African leaders to think that Emmanuel Macron is the one who's going to save Africa, it shows how disillusioned we are. And Africa needs a reset button when it comes to leadership, because with this kind of mentality, we are not going to redeem Africa. We'll end up having Africa plunged into more debts by these so-called international financial institutions that do not have the interests of Africa at heart. The more we sink into debt, the better for them, because they're in money lending business, and they want us to be in a position where they'll come and appear as saviors. But let me read you some of the quotes from Thomas Sankara. He said debt is a cleverly managed reconquest of Africa. It's a reconquest that turns each one of us into a financial slave. He was speaking at the Organization of African Union Summit in 1987. And then he said that I want people to remember me as someone whose life has been helpful to humanity. So I also want to be remembered as such, an African who fought against foreign domination and this economic exploitation by these foreign powers. They use foreign aid as a bait to plunge Africa into further economic crisis as they take away our natural resources. And we need to wake up so that we begin to see how big Africa is in terms of the economic opportunities that we are offering the world. And yet we are not even benefiting from these economic opportunities. Time for us Africans to start steering the ship towards the economic development, as he who feeds you controls you. And you cannot expect any fundamental change without without it being seen as some form of madness. For people to do something that is revolutionary, it requires people who are willing to use their intellectual capacity to do what has never been done, and to be the first to attempt to do what others thought can never be done in Africa, what others thought that it was impossible in Africa. We are the generation that is attempting to do what has never been done, to unify Africans, and not just only Africans, people of African descent, whether they're in the Caribbean, in the Pacific, in Middle East, the so-called Middle East, which is part of Africa, and whether they are in Europe, in the Caribbean, North America or South America, whether they are in Australia, and all over the world. The United States of Africa is seeking to unify the African continent into one nation, and also unify all people of African descent, so that we can establish the infrastructure that Africa needs as a nation. For us to begin to operate as a nation, we need to create or to build the infrastructure that Africa needs when it comes to education, when it comes to healthcare, when it comes to technology, when it comes to security. We need to build all these infrastructure. And when it comes to promoting our culture, we need to hold our culture with pride, promote who we are, and be proud Africans, be proud of our heritage. Because if we are not proud of being an African, then Europeans are not going to be proud for us. We need to rediscover who we are as a people and unlock our full potential by realizing that the African development is all on us to develop Africa. And because you cannot develop people, the people have to come together and develop themselves. And what Europe, France has been trying to do in Africa is hoodwink Africans into believing that it's coming to save Africa. Yet that is not the reality on the ground. France has continuously exploited our natural resources in exchange for this so-called foreign aid. France has continued to even train the terrorists that we are seeing rising in Africa, and even arming these terrorists so that they can continue causing havoc in the Sahel region, so that they can continue exploiting the natural resources of Africa. But United States of Africa says no. We reject this continued colonization of France in Africa, and the continuous manipulation of France in African affairs. France does not have any role to play in African affairs. And we expect, if this is about the African development strategy, we expect such a summit not to be held in Paris, but to be held in Nairobi, to be held in Addis Ababa, to be held in Accra, Ghana. And let these so-called foreign international partners come to Africa for a summit. But you cannot invite the entire continent to Paris, which is a very small country, to discuss issues that are really too much for Europe to handle. Africa is not a small child; it's an entire continent that we are talking about, with more than 1.3 billion people. And this is the time for us to unify and demonstrate that we are capable of handling our own problems, solving our own challenges. We have 60% of the world's arable land, and we have no excuse to fail. We have no excuse to die of hunger. What we need are functional states that put the development of the people first. And if we don't have leaders that are people-centered, This is will continue being in a state of crisis and helplessness, and it's now up to the citizenry of Africa not to be hoodwinked by these politicians into voting people that do not serve the interests of the people at heart. When we are electing people, we need to be responsible voters so that we do not elect those that give us handouts, but elect people that we have interviewed, and they have demonstrated by not by word but by action that they are capable of coming up with solutions to the challenges that Africa is facing. We need to elect Pan-African leaders that will provide guidance and secure the future of the African generations. The African Union, with all its weight, is also in Paris summit, also trying to beg its share of aid, because after all, the African Union depends on the European Union for aid. It's incapable of functioning without foreign aid. It won't even last a day. And what we need is reforms at the African Union. We also need change of leadership because the current AU Commission Chairperson has proven to be just one of the agents of France. He's being used to carry out France foreign policy in Africa, to even influence African leaders that France is the savior. Yet actually, France is still colonizing African territories till today. Mayotte is an African territory that is being colonized by France. And yet it appears to forget that it's still sitting on African territories. It has not surrendered its desire to continue colonizing Africa. It has been wreaking havoc in Francophone countries, and we need to put this to an end. So it's important that you share this stream so that we create awareness and ensure that we wake up as many Africans as possible to join United States of Africa so that we can liberate and free this continent from decades of foreign domination. We need to own our own economy, and the only way that we can own our economy is regain control of our natural resources, which is the primary wealth that we need for industrialization. The primary resources that we have, it's time that we begin adding value to them. And if we begin adding value to them, you'll start seeing new industries propping up in Africa. And if we have new industries, it means that new economic opportunities for Africans, new employment opportunities for Africans, and we will be able to get more value for what we produce. It's time that we end this monkey business with Europe, sending them our natural wealth and then living in abject poverty. We are not slaves anymore. So therefore, we need to begin thinking like free people and reject this so-called foreign aid, depend on what we have to build the Africa that is free from foreign domination. And this is possible because we have young, vibrant population, and they have immense capabilities. If we tap into our young people, ensure that they have access to equal education, that young people, their futures are secured. And if we put young people at the center of Africa's economic development, then certainly we'll begin to see the kind of change that Africa needs. And we are the change that we want to see in Africa. Therefore, we need to be action-oriented and demonstrate that we as African people, regardless whether we were born in Jamaica, we were born in the Caribbean, in Melanesia, in Europe, in the United States, we know that we are one nation, and we are ready to develop Africa. We are ready to work towards the realization of the United States of Africa. And this is the time to bring to the realization the vision of Most Honorable Marcus Mosiah Garvey of United States of Africa. Hail, United States of Africa. And I believe that we Africans are very resilient people. Amidst the pandemic, we have demonstrated a lot of resilience, and we have demonstrated that in spite of being abandoned by so-called Europe, United States, and the so-called world powers, we are still capable of thriving. We are capable of innovation. We are capable of countering even the worst challenges that the world is facing with our heads held up very high. We have managed to demonstrate that Africa, even without the help from Europe, without the help from the United States, we are still a force to reckon with. And this is the time to utilize our young scientists to begin to create solutions when it comes to healthcare, completely liberate our healthcare system so that we do not depend on foreign solutions for African problems. I believe that there are so many Africans that like-minded, that think the way I think, and the only way that to make the magic happen is to come together. It doesn't matter which Pan-African organization that you are in, as long as you are in the United States of Africa, you are part of the bigger vision. And the United States of Africa is working with so many Pan-African organizations because we realize that without unifying and working together, then we are just playing into the schemes of divide and rule, divide and conquer, and we will not achieve anything tangible. So this is why it's important for Pan-African organizations to register at United States of Africa, be part of the bigger vision, so that we can collectively work towards the total unification of Africa. As we prepare for the African Liberation Day, you all know that Africa is not free yet. So this African Liberation Day is largely a ceremonial affair, but it is to remind us that there is a continuous struggle towards the decolonization of Africa. And the decolonization of Africa has to start from the decolonization of our minds. If we change our mindsets, we'll begin to unlock our full potential and our full capabilities. And we will stop believing that the foreigners from faraway lands will come to save Africa, because this will never happen. The pandemic has proven that whenever the world is struck by a crisis, they actually forget about Africa. They don't even care whether we exist. But by the masses of our ancestors and the African God, we have survived, and we are still thriving. So this is a wake-up call for Africans to unify. Let us embrace the African solutions to African problems approach. Henrietta, you're saying African leaders need to be changed so that we may create a unified voice for Africa. I agree with you. Swad Farol, you're saying if we are united, we don't need any help from outside. The reason why we are asking for aid is because we are not united. Janet, you're saying we need to be proud Africans regardless of what Europeans think. Absolutely, I agree with you. And the moment we begin becoming proud of who we are, we eliminate the divisions that the Europeans have used against us. They have put on so many titles on us so that we even deassociate ourselves from being called Africans. And this is the time to unify our struggles so that we fight towards a common goal. Mahmoud, you're saying 100% support. Didn't you see the chairs on which Africans sat down in Paris during this shameful summit? You never see Europeans come to Africa begging for aid, because whatever they want, they take it by all means necessary. If they want our natural resources, they take them away by all means necessary. They can even make us fight against each other so that they can take our oil, our gold, our diamonds. As we keep on fighting, saying I'm Christian, I'm Muslim, waging religious warfare, the Europeans are benefiting from our natural resources. And Agnes, you're saying, why should African leaders be summoned by France? This is a question I'm also asking, because I don't understand why this gigantic continent should be silenced, should be summoned by a very small country in Europe. Nathy, you're saying, really, I doubt the African leaders' intelligence. They still cannot see the European countries are mocking us. As Africans, this must stop. Actually, all these African heads of state went there to beg for only $42 billion. It's just disgraceful. And yet Africa has trillions of dollars of natural resources. Funny, you're saying, watching from the side of New Guinea, is Papua New Guinea, keep going and do your best for our identity, for this generation and the next to come. Kibet, you're saying there can be only African solutions to African problems. And the moment we start believing that there are African solutions, there are European solutions to African problems, we begin binding ourselves into the same chains that colonized Africa. These are the generations of thieves, terrorists, slave masters, and warmonger. How can they be true to us? A goat will always be a goat, and so is a lion. You're right about that. So this summit has just exposed the kind of leaders that we have in Africa. They cannot be trusted. They give very sweet speeches that make Africans excited. But when it comes to action, their words do not match the actions. This is the greatest problems that we have in Africa. So many leaders that masquerade as Pan-Africanists, but when it comes to action, they're actually dining with the oppressors. They are dining with the same people that have ruined Africa for decades and are still ruining Africa. And we Africans need to tell them that we are fully woke, and we are seeing what they are doing to destroy Africa, and rise against this kind of mindset that is built on foreign dependency. We Africans have to create our own solutions. and completely deviate from this colonial mindset. The solution to African problems is with Africans, within Africans. Marcus Garvey told us a long time ago, it's time leaders stop this slave mentality and dependency. The Europeans are not going to help no African, neither are these so-called international lenders. And after all, we don't need lenders. Thanks, Kwame from Ghana, I suppose. I believe that this is the time for us Africans to emancipate ourselves. The black map, you're saying we can save ourselves, forget Europe for the reasons where we are beyond the Berlin conference. Absolutely agree with you. We are beyond the Berlin conference, but this Berlin conference still impacts Africa, and this is the reason why Africa is still divided, and why we are not making progress, because they are utilizing these microstates that we have in Africa to continue their colonial dominance when it comes to controlling our agriculture system, controlling our education system. They even control our religion. They are now trying to manipulate our culture and tell us that they are trying to introduce a new form of human rights, which actually violates the African culture and African cultural norms and principles. And we Africans have to rise against this and tell America to keep its so-called human rights to the Americans. If what they're trying to do is good for the Americans, it does not necessarily mean that it's good for Africans. Africans are a distinct group of people. We have our own culture that is completely different from the Americans, and we have to stand for our culture, defend our national heritage. Those who are trying to introduce the Western ideologies and brand them human rights in Africa, we must resist against this and completely reject these slavish ideas that United States has been trying to propagate in Africa. We Africans know that in ancient Egypt, both men and women occupy equal positions, and we need to hold ourselves true to that, so that even in 21st century, we allow the African women to occupy equal positions as it was in ancient Egypt, because African women are equally capable, just the same as it is with the African men. And the only way to prosper is for the African women and the African men to work together towards the complete liberation of Africa. The economic liberation requires that we work together to create the economic infrastructures that we need in our communities. The educational liberation requires us to work to build the infrastructure that we need to set up our educational systems, educational institutions that will serve our communities. Yes, someone is saying this is so sad. There's no reason to keep being spoon-fed by the very country that ravaged the continent. You're right. We have to reject this idea of being spoon-fed. Africa is just too big to be spoon-fed by France, and we reject all this kind of foreign domination and manipulation. And we call upon African leaders to wake up, because they should wake up from this colonial hangover and take responsibilities for African problems. I salute the African leaders that did not attend this so-called Paris conference, they actually representing the group of Africans that believe in the African potential to solve its own problems. Dear, you're saying, well, that's the right cause to be taken against selfish and corrupt leaders. If you already know that your leader is corrupt, you should be the first person to campaign against that leader so that he doesn't see the light of day when it comes to another general election. They should be voted out so that we have leaders that have the interests of Africa at heart. Stanley, you're saying 19 countries must stop paying colonial taxes to France. Africa needs African solutions, and this may be one of the solutions. Actually, it's the only solution, the African solution to the African problems. We'll be holding the African Liberation Day on 25th of May, and it's going to focus on the economic development of Africa by Africans. So invite your friends, you can invite your friends to be part of this, share, stream, make sure that you set your follow settings as favorites, and allow notifications for all live videos from United States of Africa, so that you can get all our live feeds, and you can also get notified on our live events. And you can also invite your friends to follow our platforms. You can follow us on Twitter at Africa and at Alkeblan, and then you can follow us on Twitter at Africa Republic, and also follow us on YouTube. Subscribe to our YouTube channel at United States of Africa. Be part of the new group of Africa that believes that the time has come for Africans to solve their own problems and confront their challenges head on.